They don't want you focused. They want you busy, scrolling, clicking, chasing dopamine like a starving dog licking bones. You think you're in control? Look around. Men built empires from nothing, and you can't even finish a book. You were born with fire in your blood, but they handed you a screen, and you chose sedation over conquest. Distraction is not harmless. It is precision warfare, and the war is psychological. While you're arguing with strangers online, they're tightening the leash. While you're addicted to validation, they're mapping your every move. You think this is just life? No, it's a game, a rigged one, designed to keep you soft, slow, and forgettable. You're not supposed to build. You're supposed to consume. You're not supposed to think. You're supposed to react. They don't need you wise. They need you tame. Because a focused man, a silent, disciplined, calculating man, is dangerous. And right now, you're not a threat. You're a product. But here's the truth they don't want you to hear. The man who masters attention masters reality. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about hustle culture. This is about war, and distraction is the bullet in your skull. So the question is, do you want to die soft or rise cold? Comment the words, "I see the trap now." Let them know a storm's waking. You're not free. You're farmed. Fed just enough to keep moving. Distracted just enough to stop thinking. They don't fear your hunger. They fear your clarity, because a man who sees the cage can escape it. A man who sees the strings can cut them. But here's the cruel genius. They built the prison inside your mind, and you decorated the walls. You bought the newest device. You argued about politics. You laughed at every flashing meme, while your potential rotted in silence. They never had to break you. They just had to keep you comfortable. Machiavelli wrote, "The promise of ease is the leash of power." Let that burn in your skull. You traded dominion for distraction. You gave them your attention, and with it, your throne. And now, you're a king who kneels to algorithms. You check your phone more than your purpose. You scroll through lies more than your strategy. And worst of all, you've convinced yourself you're busy when you're just controlled. But I'm not here to inspire. I'm here to wake the beast, to drag the old war god inside you back to the surface. Because deep down, behind all the fatigue and excuses, is a savage that remembers who the fuck he is. You want out? Good. Then shut it down. Not tomorrow. Not after the next dopamine hit. Now, because until you kill the addiction, you're owned. And until you take back your mind, you're still in the cage. No bars, no chains, just pixels and lies. Comment the words, "The leash is off." Let the world know the war just turned. You want to terrify the system? Don't riot. Don't post. Focus. Focus is the most violent thing a man can do today, because in a world engineered to fracture you, to splinter your mind across 1,000 glowing traps, a man who locks in becomes a weapon. Understand this: they can't enslave a man who sees through the smoke. They can't sell to a man who doesn't crave. They can't predict a man who thinks. You want to be dangerous? Train your attention like a blade. Hold it steady, cold, pointed only at what builds the kingdom, not what entertains the crowd. Because every scroll, every click, every useless notification, that's theft. Time, energy, sovereignty, all stolen. And you let them. You hand them your crown for a few seconds of numbness. But here's the twist. Every king who forgets his mission becomes a clown in his own court. Machiavelli said, "He who conquers himself is more feared than he who conquers cities." Let that sink. The man who can sit in silence, the man who can reject chaos, the man who can focus with merciless clarity is already at war, not with others, with the world's oldest enemy, weakness. And when you cut out noise, you awaken violence, not the kind that bleeds, the kind that builds empires. That's what focus is. It's not peaceful. It's not gentle. It's surgical war against the bullshit. So next time you reach for your phone instead of your path, remember, You're not bored. You're being neutralized. Comment the words, "Silence is my sword." If you feel it in your bones, let the other ghosts hear you. You think distraction just happened? You think it's coincidence that your mind can't hold a thought for more than 6 seconds? No, it was built, engineered, refined in corporate labs and psychological warfare divisions. And here's the brutal truth. They used you to design the trap. Every time you hesitated, every time you clicked out of boredom, every second you wasted chasing pixels and dopamine, they recorded it, studied it, perfected it. Your weakness became their blueprint. You are not fighting some chaotic force. You are fighting precision. Distraction has a strategy, a supply chain, a profit model, and your soul is the product. They trained your mind to crave interruption, to need novelty like a junkie scratching for his next fix. And now, you don't choose anymore. You react. You don't build anymore. You consume. You don't live. You scroll. You are the perfect slave, cuffed not with steel, but desire. Machiavelli warned, the people are more easily influenced by appearances than by realities. And now the illusion is complete. You're free, but chained. You're awake, but sedated. You're alive, but barely. Your blueprint is everywhere. Every swipe, every feed, every hollow trend, all designed to keep the lion asleep. But here's what they didn't calculate. The man who sees the code can rewrite it. And once you see the lie for what it is, there's no going back. So start deleting, start cutting, start killing every engineered reflex that keeps you obedient. Because distraction was built from your weaknesses, but discipline can be rebuilt from your rage. There is a kind of man. They do everything to prevent from ever being born. Not the loud one, not the rich one, not the violent one, but the man who can sit alone in perfect silence and face himself. No music, no scrolling, no noise to numb the truth. Just him, his mind, his mission. That man is terrifying, because the man who no longer fears being alone is the man they can't manipulate. You see, silence isn't empty. It's full. It shows you everything. Your cowardice, your excuses, your addictions whispering behind your eyes. And most men, they run from that mirror. They run into distraction, into noise, into anything that spares them from meeting the monster they've become. But the man who stays, who sits with the beast, who doesn't flinch when the voices scream, he becomes something else. He becomes the architect of his own mind. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But here's the truth they never tell you. The most feared man is the one who no longer needs either. You can't buy him. You can't distract him. You can't shame him, because he's faced the void and walked out sharpened. So try it. Sit alone. No music, no screen, no stimulation. And listen. Listen to what you really are, not what you pretend to be. Not what society named you, what you are when the masks fall off. If it terrifies you, good. That's the part of you worth training, because once you conquer solitude, you become untouchable. Most men will never be heard, not because they had nothing to say, but because they were too afraid to speak with weight. They echo, mimic, copy the trends, parrot the safe opinions, water themselves down until they are palatable and invisible. You know it, you feel it, that low, sick hum in your gut when you realize you're not living, you're imitating. You talk like them, think like them, even your rebellion was downloaded. And here's the death sentence. If your voice was built by others, you die the moment they forget you. Machiavelli wrote, "A man who wishes to deceive will always find those who are willing to be deceived." But the real deception is self-imposed. You've lied to yourself, told yourself you're not ready, told yourself you'll speak once you're certain, once it's safe, once they approve. You're not waiting, you're hiding. Hiding behind distraction, behind consensus, behind the fear of your own original weight. But there's another path, and it's violent, it's ugly. It requires sacrificing every version of yourself that was built for applause. You want to be remembered? Burn the script. Speak from scars. not from screens. Say something that offends the false comfort of the herd. Say something that makes weak men go silent. Because a real voice doesn't echo. It cuts, it disturbs, it scars the fabric of the air itself. This is your last mercy. If you don't become your voice, you become background noise, and history buries background noise without ceremony. Still think being good will save you? You think playing fair, waiting your turn, biting your tongue will earn you the crown? Wake up. This world is not run by the righteous. It's ruled by the ruthless, by men who didn't ask for permission. They took what was theirs. You want to be respected? Don't be nice. Be precise. Be calculating. Be unforgiving when it counts, because lions don't get to heaven, but they never beg in hell. The system has conditioned you to worship virtue with no spine. They praise your humility while feeding you scraps. They clap for your kindness as they bleed you dry, and you smile, thinking you're moral. No, you're manageable. You want truth? Here it is. Kindness without power is weakness. Morality without force is fiction. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved when one must choose. But the apex predator chooses neither. He doesn't chase love. He doesn't chase fear. He becomes so disciplined, so efficient, so undeniable that others kneel automatically, because the world does not respond to intention. It responds to impact. No one cares what you meant, only what you can do. So stop asking to be understood. Start making yourself unignorable. Let them call you cold. Let them call you harsh. Let them call you ruthless. Just make sure they say your name with a tremor. You think money is power? Wrong. Money responds to power. Money serves control, and control is the only real currency left. You don't own your time. You don't own your thoughts. You don't even own your impulses anymore. You wake up and grab your phone like a leash. They feed you what to care about, what to fear, what to chase, and you follow, like a dog in digital chains. You are not broke because of your bank account. You are broke because of your mind. Because a man who lacks internal control will always be externally conquered. Look deeper. They trained you to believe freedom means indulgence. Eat what you want, watch what you want, waste time like it's infinite. But freedom without control is decay, and you're rotting with a smile. You want to be feared? You want to command rooms with silence? You want to be unshakable? Then master yourself. Control when you speak. Control when you strike. Control when you walk away with nothing but calculated silence. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." That's control. That's precision. Delayed reaction. No emotion, just execution. Because a man who governs his own mind cannot be ruled by anyone else. And right now, you're ruled by lust, by anger, by distraction, by every invisible thread you won't admit is there. But here's the blood truth. Until you own your attention, you are someone else's asset, not a man, a unit, a target, and the world has no mercy for disposable men. Comment the words, "I own my mind," or "I die a puppet," if you're done being a product and ready to be a sovereign. Look around. Every man drowning, not in pain, in pleasure, overfed, overstimulated, overexposed, numbed to death with comfort. You think this is normal? You think you earned this? No, you were fed it, like a pig waiting for slaughter. They don't need to chain you anymore. They just keep your mouth full and your hands busy. Porn, fast food, flashy lights, endless scrolling, micro hits of pleasure designed to keep you docile. You're not relaxing, you're rotting. And every time you give in, you trade purpose for sedation, because purpose hurts. Purpose requires clarity, sacrifice, blood, and they can't control a man with purpose. They need you soft, distracted, pacified. That's why they reward pleasure. That's why they make vice easy. Because if you ever felt the cold fire of mission again, you'd burn their entire system to the ground. Machiavelli said, "A wise ruler must learn how to act like a beast." But what they've made you isn't even a man. You've become a pleasure pet, waiting for your next hit of dopamine like a neutered animal. You want to escape? Starve the weakness. Starve the need. Starve the comfort until your pain becomes sacred again. Because real men don't chase pleasure. They endure suffering with purpose. Every desire you deny is a weapon sharpened. Every comfort you reject is a crown reclaimed. You weren't built to feel good. You were built to build war machines out of willpower. So the next time your hand reaches for a quick fix, ask yourself, is this feeding me or is this erasing me? Let me make this simple. In this world, you are either a weapon or a wound. There is no middle. You either cut through life with intent or you bleed out in silence. You either strike or you soak up damage, quietly, politely, like a man trained to die with a smile. And right now, most of you are walking wounds, open, bleeding, emotional corpses wrapped in designer shame and fake confidence. You cry about betrayal. You whine about being overlooked. You wait for someone to come heal you. No one's coming. You were taught that your softness made you noble. It didn't. It made you prey. You were told your vulnerability was strength. It isn't, not without violence behind it. Machiavelli said, "The injury that is to be done to a man should be of such a kind that one does not stand in fear of revenge." That's the world you live in now. They don't just wound you, they make sure you're too weak to strike back. Every heartbreak, every disrespect, every betrayal you swallowed like a pill and called growth was a test. And you failed, because you let the wound stay open. You wore it like identity. You mistook your bleeding for depth. But the man who ascends, he cauterizes. He carves the pain into steel. He becomes the weapon that never bleeds again. You want power, then stop trying to heal and start becoming dangerous. Because no one respects a man who needs saving. They respect the one who can cut without hesitation. Your pain wasn't a punishment. It was a forge. You either die in it or you rise out of it, sharpened and silent. You want to be untouchable? Then something has to die. Not someone. Something. The old you, the weak you, the version of you that flinched, begged, hoped. That man has to be buried. No ceremony, no mourning, just dirt and silence. Because the world you want, the throne, the discipline, the warpath of sovereignty, it doesn't invite you. It requires a sacrifice. And that sacrifice is your former self. The insecure one, the impulsive one, the one who feared silence, craved attention, chased pleasure. Kill him, rip him out by the root, burn his habits, starve his excuses, eradicate his name from your blood. You think this is dramatic? You think this is just metaphor? No, this is a ritual, and only the dead leave weakness behind. Machiavelli said, "A wise man ought to adopt such a course that, if he cannot gain goodwill, he may at least avoid hatred. But the untouchable man, he needs neither. No goodwill, no acceptance, no applause. He walks untouched, because he burned the parts they could reach. They cannot shame what no longer exists. They cannot manipulate what's already been cut away. They cannot destroy the man who's already gone through his own fire." So here's the real test. Can you look in the mirror and say goodbye to everything soft, known, comfortable? Can you kill the identity that got you here so the one that gets you free can finally rise? Because until the old you dies, you're just dragging a corpse into battle, and corpses don't conquer. Comment the words, "The old me is ashes. I rise untouchable." Let the world see who stepped out of the flames. This is the final breath of who you were. There is no going back, not after this. Because once you see the truth, you can never kneel again. They sold you mercy as virtue. They sold you masks as survival. They told you to shrink, to soften, to smile while starving. And you did. You wore the nice mask. You held back the fire. You let guilt tame your hunger. You let comfort cage your name. But that man, he's gone. From this moment forward, you show no mercy, not to distraction, not to weakness, not to the version of you that sold his crown for comfort. You tear off the mask, even if it rips skin. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing. You stop bleeding for people who'd never bleed for you. Power doesn't speak. Power moves. And you don't chase, you command. You don't scream. You exist, and the room adjusts. You don't explain your code. You live it in silence, in steel, in dominion. Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. So make damn sure what they experience is something they'll never forget. Let your presence haunt them. Let your stillness scream louder than their chaos. Let your discipline carve through the world like a black blade. No more mercy, no more masks, only power." This isn't motivation. This is your rebirth. You don't need more time. You don't need more chances. You need to choose. Will you fade like the rest? Or will your name echo through reality itself? Comment the words, "No mercy, no masks, only power." Let them feel it. Let them fear it. If this was your final wake-up call, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this channel is dedicated to the few who are done being distracted. And now, so are you. Welcome to the other side.